Hey everyone, and welcome to RPG Horror Stories with D&D Doge. In today's video, we have a story about a player not following the rules for a themed Dungeons & Dragons campaign, then claims sexism on the DM. A story about a player trying to pull one over on a dungeon master of a one-shot, and much more. But first, if you enjoy the video, I hope you consider rolling a crit on that like button and subscribing. If not for me, then how about a video of Alice in play mode? She loves that toy. But with that said, let's get into these stories. Accused of bait and switching and not running real D&D by Reddit user TheyDD_Throwaway. So I was a bit tired of these typical adventure parties, and wanted to run a game where the characters have tighter social connections. I came up with a campaign where everyone was playing a red wizard of They. The characters start at level 1, and they are apprentices in training. During the campaign, they face the reality of the red wizards being what they are, and must choose whether to try and escape, embrace the organization, or do something else entirely. I imagined that the campaign would culminate in the Civil War of Red Wizards. I pitched this game for people in the University Gaming Club, since the club has nice rooms for gaming and lots of potential players. The game is quickly filled. There is one person I would loathe to take on board, since I've witnessed her causing drama to other dungeon masters. But the club rules say that I can't discriminate anyone, so despite my bad feeling about it, I take her as my 5th player. We have a session 0 that goes fine, except she sends a message 15 minutes before we begin that she can't make it, and says that we should cancel the session. I disagree, and she pivots to offering online presence. Luckily, the room has a conference phone, so we can plug her in. The conversation goes fine, I think. Everyone is coming up with character ideas. Although everyone is a wizard, they are choosing different schools. She is just silent though, and doesn't react when I ask her questions. Her only question is to ask about character classes, and I repeat that everyone starts as wizards, but they can later multi-class if they want. So yeah, 2 red flags. I had heard about the drama she caused before, and she was problematic at session 0, but I couldn't throw her out because of the club rules. On come the first session, and everyone arrives buzzing with excitement. Everyone else has shared their character sheet with me at D&D Beyond, and gone over the background in private, except for her, so I ask her to show me her character sheet. I'm amazed when I see that she has made an Aasimar Paladin of Tyr. I'm shocked, like, didn't she read the campaign ad I posted, or listen to anything in session 0? How is this possible? I take a moment to collect myself, and tell her that unfortunately, this character doesn't fit with the campaign. As we agreed in the session 0, all characters must be level 1 wizards, who are apprentices of the Red Wizard organization. So, unfortunately, her paladin is out, but she can make a new wizard right here. There are spare sheets, and level 1 characters are easy to make. Her reaction? A total emotional meltdown. She starts yelling how she was afraid that this was the case, but wanted to give me a chance. How she should have known that I'm just another misogynist who wants to ruin her fun. There were 2 other women among the players, as a side note. She starts sobbing, which makes me feel really difficult. She is ugly crying about how I'm not running D&D, I'm running some shitty homebrew. In real D&D, players make their characters and can choose themselves. If she had been mad and aggressive, it would have been easier to take. This was just a punch to the gut. She just kept going and going, showing no move to either leave or make a new character, making everyone in the room extremely uncomfortable, so I just had to stop the session there. Everyone just left while she kept blaming me for ruining her hobby, and lying to people by claiming that I'm running D&D when I'm really not. It doesn't stop there though. You see, I told you I'm part of the university gaming club. I've now heard through the grapevine that she started contacting club officials with accusations against me. How I bait people to play D&D, but really force them to play something else. How I discriminate and abuse players, and these kinds of accusations could get me banned. I'm in a bit of a shock, honestly. I need to put up some kind of defense to the club, I suppose, and I don't know if I just need to end this campaign before it even begins. It really sucks to just want to give a different experience in gaming, and then get told that what you're doing is not real D&D. It sounds to me like this player was either not paying attention to Session 0, in which I have to say she had some nerve to tell OP to reschedule it just for her, or she made the wrong character on purpose to either test OP, or did so on purpose in order to claim that OP was being a misogynist to her, which is obviously wrong since there were 2 other women in the game. As it sounds, this player has been an issue multiple times to multiple tables. Plus, OP has all the witnesses to his game where she had that meltdown, so I wouldn't worry about being kicked out of the club. If anything, she should get the boot. Let's move on. This just happened. Infinite Wizards try to crash the party. By Reddit user VoidTreeMC. I was invited to join a level 17 5e one-shot this evening. I've been hanging out in a Discord server where a DM's cooperative runs a bunch of paid games, and I'm in 2 paid campaigns right now, but this evening was a free one-shot. I know a lot of people are down on paid games, but I like these guys. I don't have a friend group that plays Dungeons & Dragons. I have friends, but when I tell them about my games, their eyes glaze over. The problem with free games is that you often get one person who does their level best to sync the game, and it cuts into the playtime to sort them out. Everything was fine until it was the wizard's turn. The wizard, as far as I can remember, said, "I cast Wish. Since Wish allows me to cast any spell, I cast Simulacrum with it. And since I cast Simulacrum on myself, casting Simulacrum, I create infinite copies of myself." Note, it doesn't work that way. I swear I heard the DM's brain crash. The DM started by looking up the spells. The 12-hour casting time of Simulacrum was brought up. The wizard started explaining that preparations to cast Simulacrum had begun 12 hours ago, at the hands of a bunch of obedient followers on another plane that he owns, or were scrying and waiting for the exact right moment to help him out. There were many repetitions of the phrase, "All of this is completely legal and normal," and generally talking over the DM whenever he tried to get a word in edgewise. One of the players typed, "Man, I'm out of here," and dropped out of the call. The DM took a step back and explained that what Wizard was proposing wasn't in the spirit of a one-shot, where 12 hours ago doesn't exist. He tried to guide Wizard back to reality, but the Wizard was having none of it. If he was level 17, he argued 12 hours ago certainly existed, and he started casting Simulacrum then. The material components were taken care of by his extra-dimensional minions. When it became apparent that the DM was not going to allow this silliness, the wizard went full edgelord. "You charge money to DM? You didn't even know the spells. You had to look them up. You suck. You can't tell me." At that point, the wizard got booted from the Discord server. We took a 10-minute break while the DM cooled down. Someone contacted the player who dropped out and assured them that the problem person was gone, so they rejoined. And we went on to have a fun game, though the DM had to call the game before we finished, because it was getting late. Maybe if we hadn't had recursive wizards, we could have started on time. Edit. One of the players from last night's game just posted in the game Discord channel that he was just in another game where the wizard twerp from last night's game showed up. The twerp argued with the DM, again, and called the DM an assortment of racial and gay slurs, then got booted. That figures. It sounds to me like this wizard player was just trying to pull some shenanigans with that move, and tried to break the DM's one-shot, but when told no, acted like a child to the point where he just got booted. Thankfully, it sounds like they were able to get the other player back that dropped out, and were able to get some game time in. And hopefully, the DM will run another session to get to the end of the one-shot. Let's move on. My Dungeon Master keeps sexualizing my character. By Reddit user Noad5163. Okay, I don't really know what to do, but it's getting worse and worse. I'm a female, and I play as a female half-elf. I was the only female in my group until recently. However, the other female plays as a non-binary character. My character is the ditzy, flirty kind of stereotype, so maybe I set myself up for this. It's a mixture of what feels like misogyny and sexualization, and I'm not a fan, and I don't know how to broach the subject. My Dungeon Master sets up scenes that feels like it's intentionally alienating me. For example, at one point, the rest of my party had to dig up some ruins, and he said, "But Z sits on the side and looks pretty." Like, I can help dig too. Or when we're riding by wagon and the boys are taking turns walking, he excludes me from it. Or when we're taking turns sleeping, they never put me on first watch, and sometimes don't include me in being a lookout at all, despite the fact that I'm a sharpshooter ranger, because I, quote, "need my beauty sleep," or "gets bitchy when I'm tired." What really upset me was last night. We had traveled to a small village with good news, and were celebrating at the tavern, and my character was approached by a drunk patron, played by my DM, offering to pay me for sex. I refused him, but then he threatened violence, so finally I had to call over one of my other party members, of which I have a thing with in real life and in the game, in order to protect me. I don't like it, and I don't know how to bring this up with my DM. I drink during our sessions, and sometimes my character acts sluttier than other times, but it was jarring and it made me super uncomfortable, so I'm not sure how to walk this back since I kinda chose this personality for my character from the jump. Also, in retrospect, my character probably would have agreed to this, but me personally was unsure and nervous about how far he would have taken it. Well, it sounds like the DM is basically playing OP's character for them in regards to roleplay, and then the whole deal with the role-played threat of SA is another thing. The only advice I can give is to bring these issues up with the DM and see if it can be fixed. And I understand that it can sometimes be hard to talk about things like this with a Dungeon Master, but if you don't, things are not likely to change. Remember, communication is one of the most important things in Dungeons & Dragons, or any tabletop RPG for that matter. Hopefully OP does talk to the DM, and these issues get resolved. Let's move on. Why I no longer play D&D with my brother. By Reddit user Commercial Warning 271. Seeing as my last post about a particularly horny bard and a gnoll blew up, I have decided to write a sequel story about the true problem player of my campaign, my brother, the sorcerer. This story will be more bullet points, because the last time I tried to write this story, I ended up writing a long recap about my entire campaign, and no one wants to read that. Let's just keep the horror relevant. Twice, he tried to split the party with the intent that they would never rejoin the party, as he wanted to finish up the entire plot of the campaign solo and claim all of the rewards for himself. He once randomly decided mid-session that he would leave to go start up a Destiny raid without telling anyone. Almost any time the party would come up with a plan, he would wait until the very last moment to sabotage said plan with the intent of putting everyone in danger. He would constantly try to get NPCs into arguments and demand that I roleplay these arguments as a sort of test. Despite being a spellcaster, He would never cast any spells. He would only ever fight if he could use the paladin's magic sword, despite only having 7 strength. When his character eventually died, eaten alive by a giant hyena, he threatened to quit if he wasn't resurrected. After I let him make a deal with the devil to bring his character back, he decided that he no longer wanted to play his character anymore, and instead wanted to play as Greg Heffley from Diary of a Wimpy Kid. When I did not allow this, he proceeded to fake amnesia for the rest of the campaign. When his character caught a leech on his leg, he insisted that he should be able to burn it off with burning hands. When I reminded him that the spell was basically a magic flamethrower, he said none of it was real and he was casting it anyways, burning his junk off in the process. And finally, when the party joined up with the BBEG, he decided he wanted to burn down his wooden fort and say that the party did it. When I asked him for his reason and character, he said, "I have none. I'm just bored. Stop railroading me." And that is it. I know this story wasn't well written or funny like the last story, but I tried. But I just went on a tangent that wasn't fun to read, so I just wrote what was relevant. Definitely sounds like OP's brother is a bit of a headache to play with. Between leaving in the middle of the game to go play Destiny, to being a general murder hobo. It's a wonder that OP let him play as long as he did. Though, at least it sounds like he doesn't have to deal with him anymore. Well, at least with tabletop RPGs. Let's move on. Problem player goes on a suicide mission to kill the enemy alone and dies. Creates a new character, and repeats the process. By Reddit user VBR2. Some backstory. My party has 5 players, and the campaign has been running for around 3 years. We only play once a month, due to scheduling issues. Around 1 year ago, the party was doing missions for a noble family, the Observes, that wanted to ascend as rulers of the main city. After the party helped them achieve their goal, they found out that the Observes' family leader was actually working for the BBEG of the campaign, but now they already were the town rulers and faced no opposition, thanks to the party. The party decided to leave town and return later, stronger, and with some allies to try to fix things. Only the warrior was against the plan, so he told the party that he had to get some important stuff before leaving town, and told them to wait for him by the city gate. He went alone to the Observes' family house and asked to speak to the leader of the family, an old lady. As soon as he saw her, the player said, "I will attack her." I, as the DM, made very clear to him that he was surrounded by the family's guards, and the party was far away. I even gave him the classic, "Are you sure about that?" But he had made up his mind. So the warrior kills the old lady in her house with a critical hit, surprise attack. The guards were not fast enough to stop the attack, but they attacked and killed the warrior shortly after. The warrior, now dead, never appeared at the gate, so the rest of the party just left town without him. I told the player to create a new character, and he decided to create a cleric that was the mother of the deceased warrior and was looking for her missing son. I found it to be a pretty interesting concept, with a bunch of roleplay possibilities, so I allowed it. During this last year, the party had been doing adventures on the countryside, and it was great. But the day finally came to return to the main city. It has been 2 months in game time, and as soon as the party arrived at the town, they went to the Observes' house. The party does not know about the murder, even though the players know. They are good players and don't metagame. As they arrive, they see a lot of guards, 3 times the amount they had before. They are received by the family's butler that invites them in for breakfast as a peace offer. The butler informs the party about the murder attempt and tells them that the family leader survived, but she is still recovering, so he has been ruling in her name. This was meant as a whole plot to find out if she really was alive, or if the butler just took the power after her death. The cleric asks about her son, and the butler tells her that the warrior was killed. So the cleric decides to jump over the table and attacks the butler, getting me completely off guard again. After this, I had to stop the session, as I had no combat stats for the butler nor the guards, and I really don't know what to do now. I don't want to kill the player's character again. I mean, it is his 4th character already. After the session, the cleric player messaged me saying, "That's what my character would do. Sorry if it made you upset." Edit. The rest of the party was not aiding the cleric, and was instead trying to stop her without using violence, but nothing worked. They tried confusion and command, but both failed. They really were trying to avoid combat, but the dice did not help. Well, that sure sounds like a pickle. Though I can kinda see where the cleric's player is coming from in this. The whole reason she's with the party is to figure out what happened to her son, with the hope that he's still alive, and just received the information that he is dead, and that the people responsible are all around her. My advice for the DM would be to have the guards overpower the cleric without using lethal force, and go from there if the DM doesn't want to have the cleric be killed, and figure out a way to go from there. Though I do have to say, it does sound like the player is a bit carefree in regards to his characters, as this is his 4th. If this is a regular issue this player seems to have, OP should pull him aside and talk to him about it, and see if they can get the player to take a bit more caution in the future. Though, what would you all suggest here? But that is all I have for you today. As always, I appreciate all of you, and may your games remain horror story free. Until next time.